This is 5 quick takes from the UK elections in 2026. Reform won big, but not as big as they expected. It's safe to say that after the results from 2025, Reform expected Thursday to be a big day for them. And there is no denying that winning over 1,400 seats counts as a big day. But they were expecting more, especially as they campaigned in local elections on national issues once again. Although it is worth noting there were no council tax promises made this year. The procession of senior party members in the lead up to the day were all talking of 2,000 plus seats. Even as the polls closed, David Bull and Zia Youssef were saying 1,800 to 2,000, which would have put them in the 35 to 40% range. But as it turned out, nationally they secured around 26% of the vote. And whilst they took some councils and indeed whole areas under their control, they missed in other areas, notably Scotland and Wales, but also in places like Portsmouth, which local Reform members thought they would walk. Now, the larger concern for other parties is that they still managed this result against a backdrop of chaos and broken promises in councils that Reform took control of last year. And a great example of that is in Redditch, where Reform, at a county council level, have cut funding for the train station, reallocated monies to other areas, had a Reform councillor who was deputy leader go independent, and 3 of the local party are on the county council cabinet who voted through a 9% council tax increase, and yet they still returned 8 of the 9 seats up for election to Reform. Lib Dems secure gains in their 8th successive election. Now, I'm sure some of you are saying, oh well, so what? But this now means we have more councils under Lib Dem control than the Conservatives, and it's quite possible before the end of the next election cycle we could have more councillors than them. And whilst it's not as explosive as Reform's growth has been, it does show that we are making progress, and the reason for that progress is made on real work, not slogans. Labour got the kicking we expected. Or did they? There is no doubt that Labour took a bit of a pasting in this election. The feeling is that this is a reaction to national politics, not local ones, and was certainly amplified by Reform using it as a kind of referendum on Keir Starmer's premiership. But was it as bad as some people projected? Well, not quite. Some of the lower end projections of the losses Labour faced were in the 1500s, so they got close at 1446, but some of the top end projections had them losing 2,000 seats or more. Is that good enough to keep Starmer in his job? Well, early signs were that it might be, but they also went into Thursday with 66 councils in their control and lost control of almost half. And whilst Starmer has had some public support, on Saturday a Labour MP stated that she had rallied support to call for a leadership challenge, and another said they may well have the 81 Labour MPs to make it stick. So that's a live issue that may come to a head as this video is being launched. The fragmentation of British politics. One thing that was certainly evident was that the British politics is certainly not a two-party system any longer. It was already heading that way before Reform's growth or the Greens started on their own populism journey. And the Greens had a good night and took a couple of mayoral elections in significant places, despite some inevitable growing pains between their factions. But it was very much evident that this fragmentation is well underway, both in terms of overall vote shares and 22 councils passing into no overall control, taking the total in the UK now to 61. A BBC graphic which shows the share of vote across the parties laid it out, but it also lays bare how much electoral reform is needed now more than ever. A party that wins seats with only 20% of the vote means that 80% of those who voted did not want them. The alternative is people feeling that they are not being truly represented with ever diminishing shares of the vote. So whether it's full proportional representation or a form of supplementary or alternative voting, the time has come for first past the post to be retired. And finally, one of the things I do enjoy about elections are the random candidates that get thrown up. Aside from the now traditional monster raving loony party, we always have a gaggle of unusually dressed, named or single issue candidates running. And it's a source of amusement among some of my friends around the world, especially in America. I mean, who can forget Count Binface? And this year was no different, but this one in Scotland really did catch my eye. Behind the costume is a very serious concern for residents in Scotland, the Googa Hunt. I'm not going to pretend that I know what it was or how it came about before Friday, but I did look it up. A Googa Hunt is where gannet chicks are collected from nests and killed on the basis of a tradition which is allowed to happen because of a loophole in wildlife protection laws. More than 100,000 people in Scotland signed a petition calling for it to be ended, and it became such an issue that activists stood for the Scottish Parliament. And whilst they only secured a small number of votes, the awareness they have raised on this issue is huge and well deserved. If you want to know more, I've put a link to their campaign in the description below. There will of course be more stories coming out of the election in the coming days, including the first Reform resignation from Thursday's intake, and yes, one has happened already. Don't forget, we also have the second season of hit TV show Reform in Worcestershire, starting on the 14th of May, with a potentially explosive opening episode. So make sure you subscribed and stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.